So the first part of the practical workshop is very important, finding a business problem worth solving. So most of the people, they basically have an idea, but they didn't discover the problem. So we go back to the first principle of thinking is like, what is the problem? How do you define it and use AI in your advantage to really discover if this is a problem worth solving? So let's dive into it. So what a business concept is. A concept is not a tool, a feature, an app idea, or a vague ambition. A lot of people, they just come up with something which they do themselves, and they come up with certain things which are super irrelevant. But a concept is a promise to a specific person about a specific outcome. So I want you to do an exercise, right? So write 3 versions of help type of person achieve a specific result. So let's say I want to help a content writer achieve better content, right? Do not move forward until you have all 3 of them, because it's very, very important, and it's basically is the foundation of everything that you will do. So why do most of the beginners ideas fail? So most of the beginner ideas fail because they start with a solution, nobody asks for it, and nobody is eventually paying for it, right? So they most time come up with something which is completely irrelevant, as I said earlier. So red flags, an AI tool that, a platform where, an app for. So always think from a problem, right? So if your idea is not according to a problem, then you just need to rewrite it. Just do this, iterate, and find a way until it actually becomes for solving a problem. So problem first thinking, what is this person trying to get done? Just not focus on tools, a platform, or trends, but this is the thing you will dive into later. So you should later come up with a solution which fits the problem. And with this solution, you also check which business model is most applicable to this or lays perfectly in line with the skill sets that you're having. So let's say you really love to make an app about mental health, but in reality, do people actually use these apps, or do you even know how to code these apps, right? Or would it not be better to first have a service that you help people and find people that can speak to other people about their health, right? So completely ignore tools, platform, and trends, and just focus on the progress, relief, and avoiding the pain, right? Because this is the thing that you want to do. So do this and finish it twice. When a certain situation occurs, I want this job so I can result, right? So let's say when people have a mental issue, I want to help them overcome it so I can give them a better life, right? This is just an example. Do that multiple times until you find the right angle. So sources of a strong concept, right? So what is foundational in really finding a good problem? So you can search it in many kind of ways. So one thing will be a problem that you had yourself, especially when you're in the professional field. You do something many times and you're basically the expert of your domain, so you know what is helpful or not. So let's say I write content, but I always have a lot of mistakes in spelling, and then I need to copy it into a browser, and then that website runs that tool and discovers all the spelling mistakes. It's basically one step too much. So what Grammarly done perfectly, they just came up with a Chrome plugin which overlays on all the different apps on your browser and gives them recommendations, so you don't have to copy and paste. So this is a problem I had before, and Grammarly solved it for me, right? So another way is to find problems you solve at work, especially when you are in, let's say, a professional environment. It's very easy to distinguish problems because the more problems you solve, the more money you actually make, right? So they even say the bigger the problem, the more the money, and especially if it's very complex, right? Another one is problems people ask you about. So let's say I position myself as an AI expert or marketing expert or whatever you want me to, or whatever you want to call me. So a lot of people come to me, hey, Roy, I'm just starting a new business. Can you help me out with writing a marketing plan or what is currently working really well? So in that case, they come with a specific problem. And my general rule is that if it's just one person, then sure, then help them. That's not a viable business idea. But if like around 5 people come to you, then it's you definitely found out something, right? Another thing is problems you see repeatedly, so time over time. let's say there's now a new AI bot, it's Cloudbot. So the founder of Cloudbot, he actually discovered that he had to keep talking to ChatGPT all the time. And especially when you walked away, you asked for a prompt and they ask you more questions. If you're not there, then the work stops. So he came up with the idea like, hey, let's create something proactively. So it keeps on working while you're not there. And in the end, you need to have minimal input, right? So he solved a problem that he saw repeatedly. So do this, write 5 problems you have personally experienced or help someone else with. So just really write it down. It also boils down to the previous slides, but it really helps you get a good foundation of the problems you need to solve. Extract concept from your real life. So if you want to do that, you can also use ChatGPT. Very good. But keep in mind, like most of the time, the output for, let's say, an AI model like ChatGPT is very generic. And because he basically base it on all the sources online available and certain problems coming out. But that also means that there's a lot of competition. So keep that in mind, right? But why I like this 4-step plan is basically you can get your own skills and find something which is really useful and aligns with who you are, right? So don't your reality, paste it into AI. So it can be anything, a LinkedIn profile, resume, your education, any past jobs that you had, or freelancer side project. Just basically dump in everything you have, right? Then use this prompt. So it is an act like an experienced startup builder with a visionary outlook and great business acumen. I want to find a business concept I can realistically build. Here's my full background. Just paste everything which you previously gathered. Extract 10 concrete problems I'm positioned to solve. 2, why I'm suited for each. 3, execute problems that require an extensive team or large funding. So don't come up with these are the constraints, right? No generic ideas, focus on practical and testable. So what's so beautiful about this is because GPT has all the things you put in there, you really can identify where your core strengths at and what you can do best. Plus he has all the market research, so he combines those things together and finds a problem that is really worth solving. So then the human filter, so what you will get around 10 problems, but you need to filter them out, right? So you start asking more questions and more questions until you find something which is really suitable for you. So keep in mind, it needs to be something which is easy to solve, right? And you can do it mostly alone and you don't need to require a lot of money for it or funding. So this way you can test it out easy, right? So anything you don't care about, because in the end, if you don't care about the project, it becomes very draining, right? So I see that happen a lot. People build like really big companies around something they actually not enjoy. And in the end, they always try to sell it or stop working for a specific company. So always pick a passion which you are excited for, like waking up every day in the morning, checking out the latest news and get excited about it to grow the business, right? Don't pick anything too big because the project might get a little bit out of hand. In the end, you want to start with something very small because the smaller it is, the easier it is to execute. And then you keep testing and iterating, because a lot of people get stuck in the product phase where they spend like 80% of their time in the product and only 20% on actually marketing or sales. And then in the end, you end up with a product which you spend a lot of time on, but actually people don't want. So anything you hate working on, right? Keep 3 to 5 problem areas. So pick the most prominent one which are suitable for you. And then start asking, right? For each shortlisted problem, ask me 5 questions to clarify who is this for, why the problem matters, what outcome they want, what they already tried, why I'm credible to help. Never dive into solutions, because this is the thing that people dive in too fast, right? You don't want to get into the solutions yet. You just first want to find a good problem to solve. Let's jump on. So personal leverage mapping. So ask yourself, what do I know better than beginners? What have I done more than once? Where do people already trust me? So this is really where your personality and your own skills shine in. So that's why it's important, add everything you have in there. It doesn't matter if you feel like it doesn't relate, because in the end, you can find a combination, right? It can be something creative in like a business environment that still works, but it's all up to the information that you put in there, right? So rule leverage beats originality. This is actually very funny, right? So a lot of people think, oh, I have to come up with a something that no one ever done before. But also keep in mind that if someone already done it before, that means that there's market for it. That is very interesting, right? So you don't always have to be the most unique or start like something which will break the internet or so. No, you want to find something that you are very strong at, passionate at, and that always beats like original or new concepts, right? Yeah, because in the end you can work longer, harder, and better on it, and it suits your skills and personality. So do this. From your shortlist, circle 2 or 3 problems where you have experience and you're not starting from zero, because you already came a long way. You already gathered a lot of skills and resources over the past years. So in the end, you want to find something which fits perfectly in between. So basically, you define the problem best to solve for yourself by now and the best possible outcome for. Now we validate the reality of that problem, not the solution. So we're gonna validate it. We're gonna dive one step deeper into, is it really a good problem? Is it something that people really see something that need to be solved and they're willing to pay for? Yeah, people validate a problem when they talk about it publicly, spend time trying to fix it, ask for help with it, spend money on imperfect alternatives. This is the point where you start to do some research. Of course, you can use your ChatGPT or other AI to do some research as well, but it's also very nice to just discover it yourself, right? Spend some time on this. I know it can be a little bit boring or you're like searching around, but in the end, you just want to really dive into what do the users really want, right? Is the problem really there? Because once you discovered it, by reading real people, their messages, and asking for real feedback, it's actually, you most probably come up with really great ideas to solve this problem, right? So I noted down a few sources to look: Reddit threads, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, job posting even. And that's very funny. You can check on job posting sites where companies are searching for a specific role a lot, right? Most time they do this because there's a scarcity or there's a need. And if you can identify what they're needing to build, for example, with an engineer, then you can build that yourself, right? And then you can offer it to them. So it can be very interesting to take a look at, right? Community is always really great, right? So you can dive into, let's say, an AI community, which is focused on N8N. Then, for example, that they're missing some APIs or like some sync, or that they're missing a specific node. And then at that point, you can really go into deep and really come up with that, right? Then you can take care of that. Courses, also a really great source, because people are searching for some knowledge. Freelance is offering help, tools that partially solve it. So look at this imperfect tools, right? So most time there are some features missing or some specific, some specific problems that it's not solving, right? This also says a lot. And search engines, just use old school search engines to really find it, right? After that, do this: 5 places where people complain about this problem, 3 ways to people try to solve it today, and 1 sentence explaining why the current solutions are not ideal. So what you really do over here is you frame the problem. You already done the ground research. You already found out what is wrong, and you found actual people talking about it, right? So this is the point where you do some market testing, if it's really interesting for people to buy and if it's really a problem. Right, so after that you can assess the value without a product, right? I made this table, so you have the pain intensity over here from 0 to 10, then you have the frequency from 0 to 10. So does this problem cause ongoing pain? Yes or no, and how many times, right? Does it block progress? Does it cost time, money, or energy, or all of them, right? Do people feel stupid or frustrated about it? And in the end, you can count everything up. So the average value need to be higher than 7. If that's really the average and everything is good, then at that point, you found yourself a beautiful problem. You found yourself a problem that is worth solving, which is really great to build a business around. Congratulations. So then you can lock the concept, right? So you can write in 1 sentence down: I help a specific person achieve a specific outcome without main frustration, right? So you can fill it up, fill in the blanks. My suggestion is, don't use any tools, no AI, no buzzword, no nothing, and just pack it down into 1 sentence. Because if you can explain it like this, that means that it's very good with the elevator pitch. It's very good for onboarding. You need to simplify everything. Like if you make it very long sentences about what are you trying to solve, then you already go wrong, right? So most of the people will not understand it, even if it's outside or inside the domain of knowledge. All right, well done. So if you haven't figured out a problem, just go back a few steps and reiterate. Talk a little bit with ChatGPT or so along the way, and you will find your problem. The world is much more easier than ever before. Yeah, I think you got it.